Okay, so I'll kind of show what I did a little bit to try to fix my shot. But at that time, when I fixed my shot a little bit, like I said, when I had the shoot away machine, what I was doing was I would get the passes and I would step straight forward because the shoot away machine would be right here, right? So I picked the ball off the rack and I'd step straight forward and go like this, and that made me, because think of the rack right here, that made me step with my right foot back like this, because I'm stepping like this all the time, right? That's gonna make this happen. And so my dad was like, okay, you're shooting square. So then my dad said, okay. So well, for a while, like my whole freshman year of high school, I'm practicing. I'm getting the ball, I'm picking the ball off the rack, and I'm practicing like this. So that started to make me shoot like this, straight with my feet straight forward, my right foot behind my left, making me shoot square. So then my dad told me, this is like my sophomore year, my dad told me, okay, pick the ball off the rack and then go like this. So pick the ball off the rack and then he said spin into it, so go like this. If I didn't have the rack in the first place, none of the problems would have happened, right? I would have never started shooting like this. I would have just been catching it natural and shooting, right? So my dad's telling me, okay, well, pick the ball off the rack and then go like this. So I started doing that, stepping straight forward and going like this. But then when I started looking at the videos, my freshman year, my sophomore year of college and junior, I started studying the videos, and I started, like, one thing I saw, and I'm not gonna go into details about how my shot got messed up because I don't want to make good shooters think, but this is just one thing I saw, but I can go into details about other stuff, but I don't want to make good shooters think. But one thing I saw was I would catch the ball like I said, right here, and I would step with and I put my right foot back and then go like this, right? Now when I do that, when I catch the ball, like I'm coming off the screen, you look at one of my videos when I'm playing with ARC, I come off the screen and I catch it, my right leg's back like this, right? Catch it, that makes my left foot go out like this, and then I step, and then my right foot would be pointed toward the basket. Now my dad told me, when he tried to fix my shot, he told me, pick the ball off the rack, and then go like this, and then go sideways, put your right foot to the side like this, and your left foot forward. Right foot to the side, left foot forward. So I'm going in the backyard doing this. But I noticed when I started studying the videos that I would catch the ball and I would step with my right leg back a lot of times. There's other stuff I did too. This is one thing I did. So I would step like this and then I go like that. Step like this and then shoot, right? But again, my dad told me to put my right foot to the side like this. So even when I was in Kauai, when I was playing, I was scoring a lot. I was playing good and I was shooting better than I did, after the shoot away machine messed up my shot, but I was still shooting like this. I was still catching the ball. And so I would catch the ball and I would like step back like this, which is good, but I was still going like this, putting my right foot to the side and my left foot forward and shooting, because that's what my dad told me to do. So my shot was still messed up at this point, but I didn't know that. So I'm shooting better because I'm moving into shots better. And I'm not moving into shots like this, like I did with the shoot away rack, making me shoot square with my left foot forward and my right foot forward and my right foot behind my left. But I also wasn't stepping straight forward and going like this. I was at least catching it, and I can go into more details about other things I did, but this is one thing. I was at least catching it and putting my right leg back like this and then shooting, right? I was at least doing that, but I was still stepping with my right foot to the side, my right foot pointed out, because that's what how my dad told me how to shoot. That's what my dad told me to shoot after the shoot away messed up my shot. So basically, my shot was still messed up. But I wanted to show my dad, I wanted to talk to my dad about what the shoot away machine did, and because I saw that that's what made me shoot square. And my dad thought, there's something wrong with me, but no, it was a shoot away machine. If it wasn't for the shoot away machine, none of that stuff would have happened. So this is, but the main thing I wanted to study was a swag flow. I wanted to study a swag flow, but I'm not gonna get into details about what that is. But so this is I lived in Kauai for like a year, and like I said, my grandpa, my grandpa's against welfare because he's an Ayn Rand fan. So I thought my grandpa was just a white supremacist against welfare and all that stuff. And I always saw myself as a communist, and I was anti-white, and I thought my grandpa was just a white supremacist against welfare. I liked welfare because I was a communist. I wanted open borders. I wanted the white race to disappear because I think it's because I saw myself as Jewish, and I always looked, didn't like the white people, So then, but like I said, so then I go to Kauai, and my grandpa's like, my grandpa's making me mop the floor. And like I said, I never mopped the floor before because my mom and dad did everything for me. And I never did anything growing up like that. I never did any chores. I never did anything. And my grandpa's like, "Oh, you're a parasite." And then I'm like, what are you talking about, Grandpa? And then I was like, don't call me a parasite. That's kind of weird. That's what the Nazis called the Jews. My grandpa's like, well, Jews were parasites in Germany. So I was like, okay, you really are a Nazi. And my uncle was like, yeah, he was basically saying white supremacist stuff. Like, yeah, the Germans were the good guys in World War II, and they were just fighting against the bankers. And, so basically my uncle ended up being like what's it called? A QAnon fan, alt-right type of thing. So I was like, okay, well, my uncle and my grandpa are white supremacist Nazis. So then I started posting, like I said, I was trying to post my quadrant model stuff online, trying to get my quadrant model stuff out. But my mom had my Facebook password, and I didn't know that. So she was going and deleting all my stuff or hiding all my stuff. So no one was seeing it. So then I started posting my communist ideas, because I had discovered the ideas like that my idea was that the Bible was really anti-Rome, and it was an allegory, the New Testament was an allegory of the destruction of the Roman Empire, because really anti-white perspective. In a kind of a communist perspective, I wanted to believe that when Jesus multiplied the bread, that's really was a metaphor of sharing, and him destroying the Roman Empire and creating sharing, creating globalism and sharing. And, when he healed the Canaanite woman, and then he multiplies the bread, that was a metaphor of the destruction of Canaan, which was a stratified society, and sharing. And so it was a communist, perspective that I had. So, and I thought that my grandpa was the opposite. My grandpa was an Ayn Rand fan, and he was against welfare. He's like, that creates resentment, and but I was anti-white, so I liked welfare, but my grandpa's big thing was like, well, so my point though is my grandpa, I feel like his stuff really harmed me, because he was his whole thing was like, okay, you have to be independent, like being independent is so important, because he's against welfare, so being independent is so important. But I discovered the theory of everything, and I needed help. So then my grandpa's telling my mom and dad, like, oh, what Ryan really wants is independence. Like I said, I hadn't even talked to my mom and dad. He's talking to my mom and dad. What he really wants is independence, because if he's independent, this will strengthen his ego, and because his whole thing is independence. He'll strengthen his ego, and he'll let go of the quadrant model. He didn't believe the quadrant model. He laughed at the quadrant model. I told him, I was like, Grandpa, the quadrant model's everywhere. He's like, what about the planets? Is there 4 planets? And I'm like, Grandpa, there's the 4 terrestrial planets and the 4 gas giant planets. He's like, oh. I mean, it's like, he thought it was funny, but in my mind, I'm like, dude, you're laughing at the truth. The truth is the quadrant model, and he couldn't see it. And again, like I said, when I was with the rabbis in Israel right before this, the Orthodox rabbis, they said something about how they said Germans are not able to see that Hashem controls everything. And so, like I said, my whole thing was anti-white. So this actually reinforced my anti-whiteness, because I was like, oh, well, maybe my grandpa and my uncle who can't see the quadrant model, they can't see the truth. So this even re-entrenched and reinforced my anti-white, wanting to mix the white people mentality, right? So I'm like, screw my grandpa. So, and I thought that the Bible was communist, and I thought that the Bible was for race mixing and communism and all that stuff, right? So, well, like I said, then I started posting all my left-wing communist stuff on my Facebook. And but I shouldn't have done that. But my mom was hiding all my stuff. But then, like I said, I started to call my teammates, and I should have just asked. But I started calling a few teammates. I should have asked them all, and I asked them if they had basketball videos, and some of them said they did. But then I found out my mom was hiding all my stuff, so I pressed unhide. I called my mom. I was like, Mom, have you been hiding my stuff? Do you have my Facebook password? She said yes. So I told her, okay, well, I'm unhiding everything. So I unhid everything. But then my friends who said they had my basketball videos, they said they didn't have them anymore. And I thought to myself, damn it, I probably wasn't in the flow. And a part of the reason why I was posting this stuff was because I wanted to scare people to think I was very powerful and very smart, so that they would give me my basketball videos. So again, my grandpa would say I was not in the flow, and I tried to make things happen. And I should have just asked people. I shouldn't have tried to make things happen and everything. And now I know that my communist ideas were not beneficial. They were my anti-white ideas were not beneficial, but at the time I was really just anti-white. My grandpa would say that I was expressing dualistic predator-prey software toward the white people, or to people designated as white. So, but then my friends who said that they had my basketball videos, they're telling me, oh, Ryan, something happened to the basketball videos, we don't have anymore. So I realized I messed up. So, but then, like I said, as I'm on Kauai for a while, I start to, realize like, wait, my anti-white ideas are not good. And I start to go to I went to Messianic churches and I went to Seventh-day Adventist churches, and I'm studying the Bible more. And I start to think like, maybe the anti-white, anti-religious, communist Marxist orientation is not valid. My grandpa would say it's not existentially valid, but I'll get more to that later. At the time, I didn't know about existentially valid, but it's not valid way of looking at things. So then I started to feel bad, and then, like I said, I was on INTP Central and I was sharing all my communist ideas, but then they kicked me off. But then after they kicked me off, that's when I started moving more toward the right wing, and I became a right winger, and I became a religious person while I was on Kauai. So I made a huge transformation. I started feeling bad for white people. Like I said, I went from being like anti-white to being like pro-white, or even a white supremacist, because I started feeling bad. And I was like, yeah. So, but then the problem was, I had all that communist stuff on INTP Central, and they kicked me off, so I couldn't get this stuff off. So then I started writing on my Facebook stuff, all of my right-wing fascist stuff on my Facebook. But the problem was like I said, because I was trying to like counteract all the stuff I wrote on INTP Central. But like I said, if my mom and dad would have just talked to me, if they would have just talked to me, none of this stuff would have happened. But I was stuck on Kauai, so I'm trying to call my mom. I'm like, Mom, can I please come home? No, you're schizophrenic. And my mom's thinking that she's doing the right thing, because she's thinking, your grandpa taught you, to be in, your grandpa's teaching you have to be independent. And she interprets that as be callous to him. And, so. But anyways, I'm not going to go into details about everything that happens next, but I ended up becoming a right winger. And I ended up going back to Los Angeles. And I'll just, like I said, I ended up, when I got back to Los Angeles, I tried to talk to my mom. I tried to call my mom on the phone, right? My mom and dad would never see me, right? I'm trying to call my mom on the phone, and I'm just like, and I'm like, I want to see, can I see a psychologist? Because I want to explain to my mom and dad about the shoot-away machine. But my grandpa was a big problem behind all this, because my grandpa's whole thing was like, oh, if you're in the flow, never talk about the past. Because my grandpa, after the abuse that happened in high school, he came up with this idea. He was like, Ryan, never talk about the past, because if you talk about the past, you're not in the flow. Because when you're in the flow, you're just in an eternal moment. You're in eternal present. But there is no present. There is no time, but you're just in an eternal moment. So don't, I understand. He was trying to get me to never talk about the abuse that happened to me. But again, I thought that was just white supremacy. I'm like, yeah, just like, the white people don't want the black people to talk about slavery, and just like the white people don't want the Jews to talk about the Holocaust, and, you're just a white supremacist. That's the way I saw his spirituality, as just basically white supremacy, Nazism. That's the way I saw it. But, so I'm like, but, I wanted to talk to my mom and dad, because, like I said, I was trying to call my mom, and I'm like, Mom, can I talk to Dad? And my mom was like, right, your dad's never going to talk to you. He hates you. And I'm like, she's like, don't you remember how you acted in high school? And yes, bad stuff happened in high school, but the bad stuff happened because of the shoot-away machine. If it wasn't for the shoot-away machine and my dad telling me to do the wrong thing with my shot, none of that stuff would have happened. I would have been happy. My dad would have been happy. Everyone would have been happy. It would have been a great life. But, but that's not what happened, because my dad screwed things up, man. That's what happened. My dad screwed things up, getting the shoot-away machine and everything. If it wasn't for that, I would have been a star. And there would have been no conflict with my dad and me. Everything was good. So, but that's not what my mom and dad want to think. They want to think, no, even regardless of the shoot-away machine, you had mental problems. And that's what happened. And that's what my mom wanted to say. She wanted to say, oh, you started becoming schizophrenic at that time, and that's why your dad started beating you up. Not true. What happened was a shoot-away machine. My dad told me to do the wrong thing, caused conflict. And I never even had schizophrenia to begin with. But so I'm talking to my mom on the phone. Like I said, I'm in Kauai, so my mom's in Los Angeles. My mom was like, you're a fucking schizophrenic loser. Your dad doesn't want to talk to you. He's never going to talk to you. And she's like, you need to go to a psychiatrist and start taking medicine. You need to get on Social Security. So it's ironic, because my grandpa's whole thing was like, be independent. And my mom's like, okay, yeah, make him independent. Put him on Social Security. That's the opposite of what my grandpa's teaching. My grandpa's whole thing is make him independent because Social Security is predatory. So my mom doesn't get it. She didn't get it. But she really thought I was schizophrenic. So she's like, you need to be on Social Security. No, I discovered the theory of everything. And this is the thing. My grandpa's whole thing was like, make Ryan independent. And my mom and dad misinterpreted that as, okay, throw him to the side. But what I needed some help. I needed some support. I needed some people to talk to me, especially my parents. I needed their help, But mom's like, your dad's never gonna fucking talk to you. He said he's embarrassed. You know, she said he put all that work into you and you just ended up becoming a schizophrenic. I wasn't a schizophrenic, you know? So I'm trying to talk to my mom to get some help. But my mom's acting like that. And my grandpa would say, yes, your mom expresses dualistic predator-prey software orientation toward you. And my grandpa says she does that to everyone. And even my dad, you know? So, I mean, it's tragic. It's sad, you know? I guess, you know, it's really sad, dude. But then so I tell my mom, it wasn't my fault what happened in high school. It was a shoot away machine. And I didn't want to say it's my dad because my grandpa's whole other thing was never blame anybody, because if you blame, that's self-confirmatory, and you know, and you always have to take responsibility for everything. And again, I thought that was always white supremacy, because like, take responsibility, I always saw that as victim blaming, you know, and victor extolling and maintaining the status quo, but never blame, you know. So I didn't want to blame my dad because I knew it was my dad and the shoot away machine, but instead of saying it was my dad and the shoot away machine, I'm like, Mom, it wasn't. I figured out what happened. It was a shoot away machine. Which it was, and my dad messing me at my shut up too. But my mom was like, oh my God, you don't take responsibility for anything. Oh my God. And my grandpa did the same thing. I told my grandpa after that. So, you know, I'm like, Mom, it was a shooting machine. Oh, you're a fucking loser. This is what my mom said. She was like, you haven't done anything since middle school because you started becoming mentally ill in middle school. You started becoming mentally ill in high school, and that's what happened. No, I didn't start becoming mentally ill. What's happened was my dad got the shooting machine, messed up my shot, and abuse started to happen, and I never became mentally ill. I discovered theory of everything, and that was the ironic thing. I was telling her, Mom, you're telling me I haven't done anything since middle school. I discovered the theory of everything. I wrote amazing raps. I'd be a famous rapper if you didn't throw away my raps. I've done more than anybody in history. And I could be doing big stuff at basketball if you would help me get basketball videos, because I want to study this stuff, and I need to study swag flow. I lost the swag flow, but I'm not going to get into that. But I've done more than anybody in history. But my mom's like, oh, you're a schizophrenic loser. So this is the ironic thing. I discovered the most important theory in history, the biggest theory in history. And my mom thought I had schizophrenia, thought that I was a loser, calling me a loser. And in my mind, I'm like, dude, I'm not a loser. I did the biggest stuff in history. Just give me some support. You know? So I'm trying to talk to my mom. I'm trying to tell her, listen, I'm not schizophrenic. I discovered theory of everything. Oh my God, you're such a fucking loser. And when I say that, she talks even worse than that to me, right? So then, like I said, my grandpa ended up going back to Los Angeles, and my mom was like, you better stay on Kauai. If you leave Kauai, we're going to make your life hell. But I left because I'm stuck on Kauai by myself. So I went back to live with my grandpa. So then when I go back to Los Angeles, I meet up with my friend Noah. And my friend Noah, he was like, and like I said, at this point, I turned into a right winger. So I turned into a right winger fascist, and I become I'd become religious. Like I said, I always hated religion because I thought religion divided, and I thought it was white supremacist because it maintained the status quo. I was a Marxist. So, but then I became the opposite of Marxist. I became like a fascist, and I became very religious. But I was more like an Orthodox Jew. Like, I was following the Sabbath, and I was very into the laws, and I was like anti, and I was anti-race mixing and all that stuff. I started to look, I looked down upon people of color, and I was pro-white. And I was for nationalism. I was for borders. Before when I was a Marxist, I wanted everybody to dissolve and everybody to mix. I wanted to destroy the white people, but now I was like wanting to protect the white people. So, and then I met with my friend Noah, and Noah, his whole life, that's why we were good friends, because he was a communist too. But then I'm starting to share with Noah that I'd become a right winger, So Noah was staying with me at my grandma's place. So first we went to live with my grandpa, my grandpa in Malibu. But my grandpa in Malibu, because like I said, he's always a right winger kind of. I always saw him a right winger. But again, I'll get more into this, how he confused me. My grandpa was like, me and Noah were gonna stay in the auxiliary room at my grandpa's place. My grandpa was like, I'm not gonna let you guys stay there and enable you, because again, my grandpa's against welfare and taking care of people and then not having jobs. So he's like, I'm not gonna enable you. So we ended up having to leave my grandpa's place. So we went to my grandma's place. And as I said, then me and Noah got in an argument because, like I said, I become a right winger, and it's more complicated than that. But we got in an argument, and he ended up leaving. And he was always a left winger communist, kind of, you know. But not so much, though. Noah's more complex than that. But anyways, he ended up leaving. We got in an argument. And interestingly, the argument was about psychiatry. Noah was trying to tell me that there's such thing as schizophrenia. I mean, that there's no such thing as schizophrenia. He was saying it was a social construction, you know. And I was saying, no, there is such thing as schizophrenia. So then he ended up leaving. And then... all right, so I'll get to the next part of the story. But as I said, if my mom and dad would just talk to me. But like I said, I think my grandpa was the main problem, because my grandpa's whole thing was like, oh, we'll make Ryan independent. And my mom and dad interpret that as, okay, throw him to the side. Don't talk to him. Neglect him. No, that's not what independent means. And my mom's like, yeah, put him on Social Security. The exact opposite of what my grandpa taught. You know? So like it's just confusion everywhere. Confusion, dude. So it's just sad, dude. It's really sad.